So Myles Garrett has officially requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. I don't think this is a surprise necessarily. I think a lot of people, most people thought there was a good chance that Myles Garrett, especially, could be on his way out, potentially even Max Crosby. And we've talked about Max Crosby here on the channel and whether or not the 49ers should go after him. I had a harsher stance on the Max Crosby issue than I do with Myles Garrett. I think ultimately I'm still leaning no, but the difference is Max Crosby's younger. He's in line for a new contract. I think he's going to cost a lot of money and he's going to cost a lot of assets. I mean, to get Max Crosby, you're probably talking 2 first rounders, maybe plus. I don't know. With Garrett, Garrett's going to be 30 years old next season. 30 in December. He's 29 now. Now, Myles Garrett is the elite of the elite. He's also in line for a restructure of his deal. But the difference is you're not going to give up the assets to go get a Myles Garrett that I believe it'll cost to get a Max Crosby because of the age factor. Myles Garrett is a model citizen, model player. I mean, he's everything that you want. Now, Cleveland has come out and said, absolutely not. We are not dealing him. We have no plans to deal him. And that was before he had requested a trade. Now they've doubled down on that and said, we're not listening to offers. We're not trading Myles Garrett. We'll see about that. I think he'll probably eventually be dealt. And then here's the other hard part. If the 49ers don't pursue him, there's a really good chance that another team in the NFC that is a contender or trying to be a contender does pursue him and potentially even lands him. And you look at teams like the Detroit Lions, certainly are in a position where they could bolster that roster. They can afford him. They can go do it. The Commanders are going to be in for a rework. They absolutely can afford it. They can go do it. The Arizona Cardinals, who are in division, that is like the one thing they need is a great pass rusher. They could absolutely go do it. I could see a team like the Buffalo Bills pursuing. So another big time team or a team on the come up certainly could go make this deal and probably will make this deal. And it's going to sting if he goes to any of those teams that I mentioned. But for the San Francisco 49ers, it's not about what our other teams doing and keeping up with the Joneses. It's about building the best roster possible. And yes, Myles Garrett certainly would make this team better immediately. However, I'm looking at it from the financial implications. Having 2 pass rushers making 30 plus million. I mean, this is the whole argument of why I said no to Max Crosby, no to T. Higgins. You just can't afford all these players. And then also, on top of that, build a deep roster for when these players or other star players inevitably do get injured because it happens to every team every year. The 49ers need to prioritize depth, in my opinion, more than they do another superstar player. I don't think adding Myles Garrett on its face, losing a first round pick, paying him $30 million is the best way to be competitive, especially not long term. And I'm looking at the long term implications and what it means for this team. So I think ultimately I will say no to Myles Garrett. Now, the 49ers absolutely should make the call. That's the job of John Lynch. He needs to make the call. He needs to see what it will take. He's not doing his job if he doesn't do that. But if it takes what I expect it will take, I would say the answer is ultimately no. And we'll see if he does eventually get traded. And if he ends up on one of those contenders, it's going to sting. It definitely will sting, and he will make that team better. But those teams are in very, very different positions than the San Francisco 49ers. So for me, I'm going to say no. Let's build through the draft. Let's build depth. That is ultimately what's going to carry this team through. Another great superstar player and taking away from that depth is not the way to go, in my opinion.